Good afternoon to you. 506 now, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us today, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Day one of the actual trial, the Alvin Bragg trial going on in Manhattan today. Here's President Trump this morning, just moments before it began.
All right, thank you very much. I just want to say before we begin, these are all Biden trials. This is done as election interference. Everybody knows it. I'm here instead of being able to be in Pennsylvania and Georgia and lots of other places campaigning. And it's very unfair. Fortunately, the poll numbers are very good. They've been going up.
Yeah, so he's happy about the poll numbers, not so happy that he's kept from the campaign trail. For more on what's happening here, let's bring in Jeff Clark. He's a senior fellow at the Center for Renewing America, a former DOJ assistant attorney general under President Trump, and these days a favorite target of the American left. Jeff, good to have you with us, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Vince. Good to be here.
We'll start with the president's situation today. This Alvin Bragg case against him has been pretty widely derided by most legal experts as flimsy, and yet it's getting going anyway. The opening arguments today from the prosecution side involved accusing Trump of a scheme to keep important information from the American people in the 2016 election about someone called Stormy Daniels. Trump's attorneys are saying, look, there's nothing illegal here at all. What do you make of this?
Well, I think that's entirely true. This case is uber flimsy, and here's how I sort out the four cases. I think that Jack Smith took the choice fruits for himself, and he brought the documents case first, using the D.C. process to pierce through President Trump's attorney-client privilege and other privileges, but then, had to bring it for venue reasons down in Florida because that's where Mar-a-Lago is. And then he brought the January 6th case, which has the best possible jury pool.
Yeah.
These cases have been brought at state level by local DAs, one in Georgia and now this one in New York City. I think those cases are a lot bigger stretch, a lot harder lifts.
Right.
So he left them to the state officials. But the offsetting point is that they brought those cases anyway, despite how weak they are, because they're hoping they can get something that President Trump, if and when he returns to the White House, can't pardon himself for. That's their game.
Even if the case is weak, it kind of seems like the Biden Department of Justice is doing its best to help it, though, in New York. There's an attorney now. The man who conducted the opening arguments today is a guy called Matthew Colangelo. Matthew Colangelo, who was, up until very recently, the third in command under Merrick Garland at the United States Department of Justice. Should we be suspicious of Colangelo's role on Alvin Bragg's team?
You should be. You should have suspicion levels off the charts on that, Vince. You don't go from being a leader at the main Justice Department, which has nationwide jurisdiction, to being a local DA team member. That's reverse career mobility. You only do that if actually, it's a kind of stepping stone to anywhere. It's a stepping stone to, greater things. If he can secure a conviction of President Trump in Alvin Bragg's case, then, he's going to have the highest, hero impact. They'll bring him back, they'll laud him, and they'll give him an even higher spot, somewhere within the federal bureaucracy. And they're not even trying to hide it, right? It's one thing for him to leave being the acting associate attorney general, the number 3 spot at the Justice Department, to go join the Alvin Bragg team, right? And then have him work on it and sort of be their brains and feed them theories and write briefs and the like. It's another thing for him to stand up and deliver the opening statement. That means they're not even trying to hide it, Vince. It's just naked. Like they're flouting. They're daring the American people of, we're going to try to stop President Trump from getting back into office. Nana, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, it reminds me of like a guy like Andrew Weissman. Like, everyone's, it's the Bragg case, or in that case it was, it's the Mueller case, but it was actually Weissman who was the driving force on that team. In this case, Matthew Colangelo, kind of the driving force. Do you get that impression?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. I mean, the Alvin Bragg didn't want to bring this case, right? A prosecutor he brought in from, big firm private life had to write a whole book to make, Alvin Bragg look bad,
Yeah.
right, and attack him. And then, Bragg must have said to himself, well, I don't know how to win this case. This looks pretty shoddy. And so, they brought in Colangelo, who, it was either whispering sweet nothings into his ear about how he could win the impossible, or that he somehow could make lemonade out of the lemons here.
Yeah.
The real challenge is going to be to make it stick past appeal, right?
Right.
Maybe they can convince a jury to do anything here and convict President Trump, and that's part of their objective. It's just, they hit a grand slam if they can actually get through appeal. I think that's going to be very difficult, but maybe they can get through this first stage, and oh boy, will the headlines launch at that point.
How messy is it for Alvin Bragg and Matthew Colangelo to have as their star witness a convicted liar by the name of Michael Cohen? How messy does that make things?
Yeah, I mean, very messy. They got him. He's gone to jail. The Southern District of New York, who sent him to jail, didn't decide to pursue President Trump over this case, right? And then they got Stormy Daniels, who actually wrote a document saying that there had been no relationship. And most recently, I saw, CNN kind of previewing that apparently now, this reminds me of the 51 intelligence agents who said that the Hunter Biden laptop had the indicia of, or all the indicia of Russian disinformation, right? Like, that's a very artfully phrased thing. So now they're saying things about her future testimony that seem very artful. They're saying that she's going to say that the relationship that she now claims existed, despite the fact that she disclaimed it before, was not entirely consensual. I mean, what the heck does that mean?
Yeah, that's it. So it's shifting, which doesn't help her credibility.
Right.
Yeah. So, by the way, I just realized Matthew Colangelo also worked for Letitia James in her case against Trump. This guy's been all over the place. This is, and so the Biden administration seems to have its fingerprints on all of this. That includes, by the way, Nathan Wade and Fani Willis down in Georgia, as that team was meeting with the Biden administration in the midst of all of these prosecutions. Have you ever seen such a thing where it seems so obvious that this is a political hit job in all of these cases?
No, I mean, it's super obvious. It's clear that they're coordinating, or that there are institutional interests at stake on the federal side that they don't want to let the cat out of the bag on, because it would undermine these state cases. And look, I'm personally involved in this, right? Down in Georgia, we've uncovered that first there were exchanges of documents between the Biden White House counsel's office and Fani Willis. And then second, the New York Times had covered this actually. They had asked, Fani Willis had asked for permission from the Justice Department, which is what you have to do if you want to use Justice Department officials as third-party witnesses, for permission for, former colleagues I had at DOJ to testify against me. Boy, those were great, appointees of President Trump. But put that aside, the Justice Department under the Biden administration denied permission for them to testify in front of Fani Willis's grand jury. And so we've asked to see both sets of those documents, and they've been placed under seal, Vince, and we can't see them. And the only reason, it seems to me, why we can't see them, certainly if they were innocuous, Fani Willis would turn them over, is that, they probably either in the instance of the White House counsel's office documents with her indicate some form of collusion, and as to the Justice Department documents, they'd indicate something that would beef up the immunity defense that President Trump and Mark Meadows and I all have because we're former federal officials, because they're saying, no, we're not going to let DOJ officials testify in your local process. Either way, in both ways, it's not the kind of thing that happens. It shows that there's an unusual level of coordination between the Bidenistas and these local Soros prosecutors.
Yeah. Or as Adam Schiff might say, there's ample evidence of collusion in plain sight. Hey,
very good, very good.
Let me ask you something else about what's going on with you personally. We've been talking with John Eastman here about kind of all the trials that he's going through as a result of giving President Trump legal advice. You also, as an attorney, have given legal advice in good faith about what you thought about the 2020 election, and the left is looking to destroy you for that. In fact, they're actively trying to disbar you in D.C. Give us an update on what's happening.
Sure. So, I'm litigating in 8 different forums, Vince. So I think, President Trump certainly takes the cake in the lawfare front, but, I'm probably the number 2 target. I won't list all 8 of them for you, but they span local, state, and federal courts.
Sure.
I have an appeal coming up about my bar case, actually, in the D.C. Circuit on May 10th. But the latest important thing that's happened is that the D.C. Bar's local process completed a trial against me in early April. Now we're in post-trial briefing, and then there's an appeal process, multi-stage appeal process that kicks in after that. So I'm going through that. It's incredibly expensive, and it's designed to destroy me, to harm my reputation, to keep me tied down so that I can't be doing work for the conservative cause and the movement, and then potentially, to black me up so bad that if President Trump does return to the White House, I might not be able to, return to the administration somewhere. So, this is what they do, and I think for the American people, it's very transparent. I hope that sources of media like yours, keep helping to shine a light on it, because I still think not everyone's been woken up yet, Vince.
So as you point out, part of the goal here is to impoverish you now, and then of course to further impoverish you in the future by cutting off your means of actually generating an income. Have there been other impacts? In John Eastman's case, he has revealed, and we just talked about this past week, that he was debanked. In other words, his banking institutions, USAA and Bank of America, both shut down his accounts, and he had to transfer all of his assets elsewhere. Has anything similar happened to you, Jeff?
That has not hit me, and knock on wood, it won't. But I mean, I've suffered death threats, which we've reported to the FBI. One particularly colorful one involved a man who at least said he was in New Jersey, and he invited me to come meet him in the Pine Barrens and said that he would chop me up into little pieces that would fit into buckets. I'd be unrecognizable, and that he would leave all my children fatherless. So it's really wonderful when you get great Democrats like that who watch MSNBC, because that's what it spurred into action, he said, and then you hear something like that. I mean, I don't even know what planet these people come from.
I hate to be curious about this, but does the FBI take death threats against you seriously?
So that happened when I was working for a prior organization, and the organization was so concerned that they dispatched one of their other employees to speak to the FBI about it. The FBI agent who took the call seemed very concerned and said, "Look, yeah, this has to be investigated." But on further calls, no action was taken, and as far as I know, they didn't do anything with it. Unless it got killed at some higher level inside the FBI.
In other words, as far as you're aware, they never even called the guy or interviewed him to find out what his actual intentions were.
That's correct.
Amazing. Jeff Clark, again, senior fellow at the Center for Renewing America, continuing the fight on behalf of our country, and a former DOJ Assistant Attorney General under President Trump. Sir, thank you for your time today, and hope you can come back soon. I really appreciate that.
I appreciate it, and I always enjoy being on with you, Vince. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Jeff. To the phones we go. Phil in Fredericksburg. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hello, Phil.
Hey, look, Vince, all I wanted to say was, we have the news media has been really successful at brainwashing the American Democrat. I mean, I've got a good friend, and God bless him, he's one of my best friends, but his ability to tick down the propaganda talking points that are complete lies about Donald Trump is absolutely frightening, because he's not making this stuff up. He's being told this over the news media, and these are the kind of people that are on that jury that President Trump is having to deal with now. So they're very successful at their propaganda talking points, and I would just encourage everybody who's trying to make a difference and to convince Democrats to vote for us to treat them with respect, but to understand that it's not their fault that they're being so perfectly brainwashed. It's amazing to listen to him talk and to hit every talking point that's a lie about Donald Trump. It's just amazing. They're very successful and very good at what they're they're doing, Vince.
It's a full court press. It's everywhere, isn't it? And so the reason this matters so much, what Phil's describing, is that, when you've got every news outlet aping the same talking points, it affects the way you can think. You can't think clearly. You're robbed of the vocabulary to be even able to describe what you're seeing. And people are being convinced of untruths, of things that are completely untrue because they're being fed a very limited diet of nonsense, unfortunately, Phil. Phil, what's it like to be your Democrat friend, by the way? You said you have a friend who's a pretty dyed-in-the-wool Democrat who kind of believes all the anti-Trump stuff. I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, man, that must be really interesting to be Phil from Fredericksburg's Democrat friend.
Yeah, I mean, look, I respect him, and I don't hate anybody for their political views, and he's the same way with me. He gets into arguments with my other Republican friends, and they get in some heated arguments, and I'm like, you can't do that. I mean, you've got to respect the man for what he believes, but my heart breaks for him because this is the kind of brainwashing that they're doing, and he is a very smart man. He's not stupid, but he's a liberal Democrat, and they have got inside his head, and they are just putting garbage in his brain, and it's sticking. It's terrible.
Does his profession rely on him being kind of wedded to that narrative? Is like the people around him, like if he were to become Phil today, if he were to adopt your political views, would he be welcome in his workplace, do you think?
He is retired, and he found out that Social Security was a lie. He found out that Medicare was a lie. He found out that he's going to have to go back to work, and he's going to find that he found out that Social Security is going to cut his Social Security paycheck over $23,000 a year if he makes over $23,000 a year. So they are guaranteeing he will live in slavery, but he will not make the connection of the Democrat politicians who do this to him and all the problems that he's living in right now. There's no connection in that.
Well, you're a good friend because you keep working to free his mind in the midst of all of this. Hey, Phil, thank you as always. Really appreciate your call, sir.
God bless you, Vince.
God bless you, Phil. There's Phil. You're Phil all the time. Always good to talk to him. And again, interesting. We found a new side to Phil. Phil's working through it. He's trying to help his Democrat friend open his eyes and his mind. Hey, coming up. There are some lefties who are opening up their minds and who are all of a sudden shocked to find that they've been supporting some awful stuff. Some evidence of that ahead on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hey, good afternoon to you. It is now 5:35 here on News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Just to remind you, we've got so much craziness going on these college campuses across the country, especially the upper crust ones where all the rich kids go. Columbia University. You realize how wealthy the students are that are going to that institution in New York? And then, of course, they're disrupting classes and acting like lunatics and supporting Hamas and screaming death to America. And you're like, what the hell is going on? How did this even happen? How did this happen? Then menacing the Jewish students. Here's some sound of a crowd, a mob of pro-Hamas lunatics surrounding Jewish students and telling them they have to go. They've got to leave.
We ask that you please respect our privacy and our community guidelines.
What community guidelines? Is there like a website or something? Do I have to read them first and then sign off that I read the community guidelines?
Which you have so far disrespected.
They're on a shared quad.
And leave our camp. One step forward.
So they goose step forward.
Have you gotten enough video? Because I look very pretty.
So funny. That follows several other steps forward that they keep taking towards the crowd. If you ever find yourself in a crowd literally just repeating someone who's making it up as he goes along, it was a full-blown freestyle. You have no idea what the next words are going to be, and you've already committed to repeating. This is why I think what needs to happen is or some right-winger needs to get into one of these, needs to infiltrate and scream out mic check. and then just take over the whole damn crowd. Just go in there, swoop in, and hijack the crowd, right? Like Alex Stein should do this. Alex Stein should just go into one of these like crazy mobs, go, mic check, mic check. We are here to announce that we all love terrorism. We're all a bunch of terrorists. And see what happens. Just see what happens. If they just keep repeating you're good. You're golden. Just keep going forever. And then just walk them into a jail or something. Like, or follow me, everybody. And just get the crowd going. Because it sounds like anyone who just yells mic check instantly gets repeated. Mic check, mic check. What were they chanting in favor of? Well, all sorts of crazy stuff. Make us proud, make us proud. Take another soldier out. That is, they're rooting for the death of IDF soldiers. We say justice, you say how. Burn Tel Aviv to the ground. These are anti-war people, obviously. They're forging a way towards peace. they're destroy them. Destroy them. For the river to the sea. What do you think this means? It's to the point that the rabbis who associated around the Jewish students on the campus are warning them, hey, don't go out there. Stay inside. Stay inside. Here's another one. Columbia.
Never forget the 7th of October.
Never forget the 7th of October.
Never forget the 7th of October. One more time. Not 5 more times. Not 10 more times. Not 100 more times. Not 1,000 more times. Not 10,000 times.
October 7th needs to happen 10,000 more times. The rape, murder, kidnapping, hostage taking of October 7th. Needs to happen 10,000 more times, they're chanting. Just to make you feel better about all this, Columbia is one of those institutions that produces America's ruling class. So after they graduate, they'll probably be in charge of something meaningful, and you're going to really resent it. Just forecasting it ahead of time for you. Some Jewish students are reacting to this. A Jewish student by the name of Chaya.
It was scary. It was really like the fact that someone would really say that. I think that we've come to terms with the fact that it really is something that people feel, and I know that it is, but the fact that someone outwardly said it to us was really scary. It just feels, I don't know, it feels very...
They're screaming death to America, death to Israel, calling, let's see, here's another Jewish Columbia student, Andrew Parker Stein.
A bunch of Jewish students came to campus to respond to the encampment. We just sang songs of peace. On the way out, a pro-Hamas mob started chasing us, calling us in the middle of campus, calling us inbred, that we have no culture. One of them grabbed my friend's Israeli flag in the middle of campus, carried it to a mob by the gate that were communicating with the angry mobs outside of campus. They threw hard objects at him. They started harassing him. They tried to light his flag on fire, and nothing is done with this. And
yeah, we see
after
video of that.
On the way out, we were talking to public safety. They started following us on the way out. And public safety just shrugged their shoulders. They're the ones who are responsible in protecting us. And the only protection that we had was we have one student who's a 6'5" student, and everyone hid behind him as we were leaving campus. And an angry mob of pro-Hamas students chased us off of campus, screaming, "We don't want no Zionists here, get out of here, F Israel."
Remember the left? Remember how they used to be for safe spaces? You remember that? That was like a thing a couple years ago. We need a safe space. Not for the Jewish students, apparently. Jewish professor Shai Davidai was denied entry at Columbia. He works at Columbia as an assistant professor, and the pro-Hamas crowd got in his way and said, no Jews allowed.
Media in, is the university keeping the media out? This is the COO of the university. Are we not letting the media in? What? Can you back up, please? My card has been deactivated? Why? Can you back up, please? Wait. Everybody, my card has been deactivated. This is Cass Holloway, the COO. This is Gerald Lewis. They were in the meeting where I asked them if Hamas is a terror organization, and they couldn't say that it is a terrorist organization. Why? I'm a professor. Why can I?
Shai,
No. Speak out loud so the media
Shai, we are willing to take you to the math lawn.
No, I am a professor.
Wait, am I understanding this audio correctly? The senior leadership, the COO of Columbia, was a part of deactivating his ability to get into his own building because he challenged them about whether or not Hamas is a terrorist organization, so they decided to start punishing him. So you do have active members of the administration who are a part of this nonsense. and not just the delusional students in the quad.
Alumnus, we have a right.
Wait, everybody quiet. I am a professor here. I have every right to be everywhere on campus. You cannot let people that support Hamas on campus and me, a professor, not go on campus. Let me in now. Let us in. No.
Yeah, and so that's what's happening. So Jewish professors are being attacked by the administration. So you have pro-Hamas students attacking Jewish students, and you have pro-Hamas administrators attacking Jewish administrators at Columbia. How many of these people vote Democrat? Is it 100% at Columbia? It's got to be close, honestly. Almost every single person at Columbia, probably Democrat. Michael Rappaport is an actor. Is he a comedian too? He's an actor at least. And he is a lefty. And he's had a lot of red pill moments lately. He was just addressing a Jewish crowd outside of Columbia, and he's a little upset by what he's seeing.
That is the most important thing. These are bullies. These are bullies. These are cowards. These are pathetic, low-life scumbags. That's as bad as I'm going to curse. It's embarrassing, but
Michael Rappaport is the anti-Trump guy. He's done a bunch of videos. He films these selfie videos where he works through his emotions, and he's like, I hate Trump. And didn't he call him pig something? He's like some word for him, pig guts or whatever. And he admitted on a podcast recently, if my memory serves, that he didn't know that the Charlottesville thing was a hoax. He had no idea that Trump had condemned neo-Nazis at Charlottesville. And he's like, I had no idea. The media didn't tell me. He's going on and on about this. He's like, it's the craziest thing. I was totally misled.
Number one is to free our hostages. Agenda number 1A is to eradicate Hamas.
They have American hostages.
Last one of them. Israel is not going anything. Israel is not going anywhere. Israel did nothing wrong on October 7th. Israel has the right to defend itself.
They want 10,000 more October 7ths, the crazy people at Columbia.
Israel has the right to exist, period, end of story.
Mm-hmm. So what are they learning at all of these schools? To hate their Jewish fellow students and staff members, I guess. Apparently, that's one of the fruits of all of this. What else are they learning? You know what they're learning? They're learning about Taylor Swift. You know, Taylor Swift has a new album, and they have entire classes dedicated. I'm not kidding. The joke on the right for years. What's the go-to fake class that everybody always cites? What are they learning in these schools? Underwater basket weaving, right? Isn't that the one you hear? I've heard it a million times. Underwater basket weaving, and everyone's like, "What's that?" It's nonsense. It's nothing. They have whole classes dedicated to learning about Taylor Swift. CBS did an entire segment on one of their weekend morning shows this weekend about how you have schools across the country who now have Taylor Swift 101. They're saying, what are they wasting our money on? Why are we giving federal loans to people learning about Taylor Swift 101?
All the marketing strategies in the world will only work if you have a good product to market.
You might not expect a business school course to begin like this.
It's cool. That's what I tell them no.
But at UC Berkeley, Taylor Swift is not just a tortured poet. She's a case study in how to build an empire.
Nothing about Taylor Swift is an accident.
Sophia Lendahl and Miad Bushala are student teachers of a course called Artistry and Entrepreneurship, Taylor's version.
How did a pretty, talented girl become so successful? Let's do an entire course on it.
It's like everything from her music. Each era is kind of like its own brand.
Today's focus, Swift's literary devices and her song as the product.
I think that Taylor is so strategic in all the things that she does.
Oh my goodness.
And that's why I'm so interested in the course, kind of like unraveling how she's been able to be such a relevant figure for so long.
Oh my
Berkeley
goodness.
Is
you know what they need is a Swift kick in the pants. Every single one of them. What are you doing taking a course on Taylor Swift? It's a mystery. How did she get so rich?
Universities nationwide are teaching the Swift effect in departments from English to political science to gender studies.
Are you also teaching the Michael Jordan effect? Are they doing? Is there like a whole course on Jordan? How did Jordan become so successful?
What do you think the proliferation of Taylor Swift courses at universities and colleges say about your generation?
It says it's the end. It says this is the fall of Rome. We're done.
People are becoming more and more interested in people who do bigger things in the world and people who give back.
It's the first time in history we've ever been interested in why people succeed.
Team signing up for these classes can be harder than scoring tickets to see Swift herself. So we had to ask, with all that tuition money on the line,
what did your family think when you said, I'm taking a Berkeley course on Taylor Swift?
Everyone was
don't come home. You're not welcome here anymore.
super supportive, and they loved it. They were like, you have to take this class. My mom actually is the one who sent me the link. She was just like, well, if, it's been approved by the university, I'm sure it'll be worthwhile.
Did your mom abuse you your entire life, or was this a recent development?
My parents were thrilled. They've both wanted to learn more about her ever since I started.
That's a guy, right? I believe it's a fella who's saying this.
Showing an interest
with different colored hair
in her.
And they're taking a page from Swift's playbook for their own futures.
I've been very interested in media law and policy. I'd love to apply those sort of concepts that apply to law and policy and media and art all together in the professional world.
Taylor Swift.
College. It's a very expensive cruise ship that never leaves land. That's what you're paying for. A 4-year nonsense cruise. And now Taylor Swift, she's not actually here. We'll just talk about her a lot. You'll spend a lot of money. Other lefties are opening their eyes. Bill Maher, who I love. It's funny. I love the Bill Maher commentary on the right because Bill Maher basically is a guy who comes to positions conservatives had 2 years ago, at least. He's like, hey, fellas, the COVID thing was kind of crazy, wasn't it? And then you get conservative pundits who are like, don't give Bill Maher any credit for saying that. How dare he? He's late. He's years late to it. Okay, that's true. He is years late to it. But it's always like a miracle when somebody on the left at all is willing to say out loud that their side is full of idiocy on any number of issues. Here he is talking about the left's apologism for child predation.
Have you all been watching the Max documentary called Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV?
Yeah, I watched it. Awful. Meaning what they discovered was awful. It's an excellent documentary, but just an awful revelation about Nickelodeon.
OMG. Nickelodeon, it wasn't a studio. It was Neverland Ranch with craft services. It is just scene after scene, clip after clip of the child stars of their day being subjected to obviously inappropriate, highly sexualized degradation.
He goes on to say, all these lefties, everybody was attacking Ron DeSantis for going after Disney for sexualizing kids, but guess what, lefties? Listen to the audience. They are not on board just yet. They're like, what is happening? DeSantis was right, says Bill Maher, of all people.
So I don't know if this documentary is the talk of your town, but it is out here because it didn't just expose a dangerous workplace. It also exposed hypocrisy. Because it must be pointed out that when the evil governor of Florida was saying the exact same thing about kids and creepy stuff at Disney that liberals now find intolerable at Nickelodeon, he was dismissed as a hick and a bigot. But why would a kids' content factory like Disney be all that different than the one at Nickelodeon? A 2014 CNN report discovered that at least 35 Disney employees had been arrested for sex crimes against children, and in 2021, Disney child star Allison Stoner confessed she only narrowly survived the toddler-to-train wreck pipeline. The next year, child star Cole Sprouse told the New York Times that young actresses at the Disney Channel were heavily sexualized from an early age. Willie Sutton said he robbed banks because that's where the money is. And the reason we find pedophiles in the Boy Scouts and the Rectory and kids' TV is that's where the kids are. DeSantis wasn't wrong, but we're so tribal now, the left will overlook child if the guy from the wrong party calls it out.
That audio, we stopped it right there, but just let me explain the next few seconds. You can hear a pin drop. The whole room went silent. He was right. And it's unfortunate, but he was right. All right, coming up tomorrow on the Vince Coglianese Show, day 2 of the Trump trial in New York, the one Alvin Bragg put together. The left, all of a sudden, not so sure they want to do this anymore. They're like, hey, wait a second, why is he becoming more popular? Also, Congressman Chip Roy, he's always so good on so many things. We'll talk to him tomorrow about the latest inside of the almost hopeless Congress. Chip Roy is one of the exceptions, which is why we'll have a good chat with him tomorrow. And you, of course, always on WMAL. The great one, Mark Levin, up next.